Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci
Pain au chocolat.
Pain au chocolat. Oui, oui, oui. Burger.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very special guest. It's Joshua.
Woo!
Finally, we meet in person. Actually, we met in person in London a while back.
Yeah, in January, wasn't it?
In January. And then we took some videos, but
It never got released.
it never got released.
And now I'm visiting him. I'm visiting Bunsuke, so yeah.
We're in Holland right now.
Yeah.
And how are you finding Holland?
I love it. It's very calm. People are nice. And I'm loving the weather right now. It's perfect.
You're very lucky because usually it's not like this, actually.
The temperature's not bad. It's like perfect. Like 22, 23 right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, couldn't get better.
Yeah.
Love it.
But, I think most people who watch my channel must know you. I think a lot of people actually...
Do they?
Who are on my channel are on my channel because they know me through you. Through our old collaboration on your channel.
Okay.
At least the Japanese viewers. But for those who don't know you, I was wondering, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and why you think you're so special.
I mean, I never thought I was special, but...
Why the world seems to think you're so special. I think you're special too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bell.
Thank you, Bell.
Thank you, Bell.
Wow.
Hi, I'm Joshua, born and raised in Japan. My grandparents, all four of them, moved to Japan in the 50s and 60s. They're from the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. My parents grew up in Japan as well, and my grandparents moved to Japan as missionaries initially, and I lived in the States when I was a kid for like a few years. Then I went to Japanese elementary school. I went to American International School in Tokyo for middle school. Then I went to Japanese high school in Saitama. And then I just straight went into showbiz. After that, I've been acting, and all that. And now I do YouTube and like I make stupid short videos as well on Instagram. And and I first started my YouTube career with my cousin Leanna, and that's how Bunsuke found me, I think.
I think so too.
And that's how we got connected, and it's been great.
Very interesting. We've been it feels kind of weird because it doesn't feel like this is the second time we've met.
I know. I mean, we always chat, so it doesn't feel like
true.
we've met in person only twice. But it's ね、いいよね。オランダに来れるぐらいに一緒にいろいろ、昨日もアムステルダムいろいろ見せてくれて、
ちょっと観光して散策して、
で家も泊まらせてくれて、
もちろん
ソファーを借りさせて、
大ウェルカム。
ありがとうございます。
で、well, thank you for introducing yourself.
Of course.
Yeah. And because there was a time where you only were able to speak Japanese, right? There was a time where you didn't speak English.
It wasn't like I only spoke Japanese, but there was a time where I only wanted to speak Japanese, or I chose not to speak English, because I was only going to Japanese school and I was forced to go to international school. I mean, I loved it. It was fine, but I had a love and hate situation with the international school I went to, and I was like too Japanese for them, I think. And then I went back to Japanese high school, and then I think that's when I finally realized that I need to work on my English, and so I started watching American TV dramas and all that, and then I started doing interpreting, translating, and all that as well. So that's when my English kind of came back, because I only spoke English when I was like 3 or 4. Like when I was in the States, I only spoke English. And when I went back to Japan, I just switched Japanese instantly.
Wow,
So it just became my first language instantly. And I always loved the language. Like I would like always study kanji on my own, or I would like teach my friends Japanese. Like I would teach Japanese to my Japanese friends. Like that's how much I love the language. I even took like a special Japanese course in high school to like to make your Japanese better as a Japanese kind of
okay.
thing. and to learn more kanji, I got to do the kanken. I took kanken sankyu, and like I passed. And I told this lady, I was applying for this job once in London, and she was like, how much Japanese do you speak? So I was like, how can I prove to her? I was like, kanken 3級持ってますって言ったら she started laughing. She was like, 大体の人2級か1級持ってるって言うんだけど3級みたいな。はみたいな。日本人ですら関係そんな持ってないけど。
関係1級持ってる人もマニアだよね。
まずいないし、関係持ってる人がそんなに
多くないんだよね。
そんなにいないのに she started laughing. So I was like, okay, girl, like, where's that attitude coming from? Wherever that is.
Maybe she was confused with like 日本語検定 or something like that. Or
maybe.
JLPT?
N3 だと思ったんじゃない
そうか
I
もしれない。
think she thought I had N3 or something.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
Yeah, maybe she thought, yeah. I was like, I think my Japanese is better than yours. Deep down, but.
So you would say that Japanese is still today your first language?
Oh, of course, yeah. I think 90% of the time I only use Japanese in my daily life.
Right.
Yeah, even to my siblings I use Japanese, my parents Japanese. But they speak English to me. Like they use English to me. But I just reply in Japanese. And I mean, they both grew up in Japan as well, my parents.
Right.
So, but my dad only went to international school. My mom only went to Japanese school. So we kind of mix Japanese and English all the time. I don't really mix, yeah.
Does your mom have trouble sometimes finding English words then?
She does actually, yeah. I mean, her English is perfect, but sometimes like she wouldn't know like small words like to explain something.
Yeah.
She's like, これなんだっけ? But yeah, they're all bilinguals and like, yeah.
So, but if anybody would compliment you on your language abilities, it should be on your English.
It should be on my English, actually. I really worked on it. Like I talked, I really talked to a lot of like English speakers, and like I really had to brush it up, and yeah, I really worked on it. So I never worked on my Japanese. Of course not. Like that's how your native language works, right? But people look at me and think, oh my gosh, your Japanese is so good, blah blah blah. And like I'm that white guy that speaks amazing Japanese online, and then but I'm like I'm just being myself. And
how does that feel to always have to kind of justify somehow your own existence?
ね、変だよね。なんか、I always feel like an imposter, you know? Like I feel like I always have to explain myself for people to fully understand me. But I think it's for anybody, like you can't really understand a person by just saying like hi and like, you know. But for me, I feel like I have to put an extra effort into like explaining myself for people to fully grasp who I am, because like people can't tell my first language is Japanese. Like I really have to convince people that my mentality is probably more Japanese than Western, I guess. But I'm not fully Japanese either. Like my mentality is not 100% Japanese, because my parents are not Japanese and they didn't really raise me with a Japanese mentality and all that. So I'm like somewhat 50-50 is what I say all the time, but maybe more towards on the Japanese side. But I just say I'm from Tokyo, and it's the easiest explanation. Yeah,
it's true.
It is true. Yeah. But I'm from Saitama, but I just say Tokyo. It's a lie, but it's true.
Well, I always say I'm from Amsterdam, not I mean,
right.
It's
right there.
It's right there, and it's easier.
Yeah,
people know Amsterdam.
Yeah.
People don't know this place, but it's close enough.
Yeah, close enough, because this distance is I searched last time.
Yeah,
and it's the exact distance from Tokyo Station to my house and Amsterdam to here. You know? So exact distance. So it's very interesting.
So home away from home, maybe.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I feel at home here.
But that's super interesting. I mean, I started learning Japanese, well, here and there from a young age, but 本格的に from 18 years old. And even I feel like some parts of Japanese mentality have, made its way into my soul and being.
Yeah.
And so when I came back after 6 years in Japan and Holland, like I don't really feel the connection I used to feel to people around me, or actually I never used to think about it really.
Right.
And then all of a sudden the things that you thought were normal are not normal anymore. And so I can only imagine that if you were born in that setting and you always have to explain, because I don't have to explain anything. I am actually Dutch. I'm actually a foreigner in Japan, and I'm actually somebody who learned Japanese as a second language. So there's no discussion, right? You know, I can only imagine how it must be for you to, you know, every time, you know, have to explain yourself or kind of assess the situation. What kind of person am I talking to, and how I imagine that depending on the other person, the way you explain yourself is different.
I change it every time. Like, and nowadays I just act as if I'm a tourist in Tokyo. Some days that's just the easiest way, honestly. Like,
actually, I do that now too. Yeah. It's like whenever somebody talks to me in English, I just want the communication to flow, and so that's fine. If I notice that somebody's very bad at English and is struggling, I'll say we can speak Japanese if you want. If somebody still wants to really practice their English, I'm fine with that. You too.
But for me, so it's kind of weird for me to speak Japanese and just to speak English to Japanese people because, again, I feel like an imposter. But sometimes it's easier just sticking to English. But it's not my first language, you know. It's like it just feels weird. I mean, I think it's more common in Europe to speak English to your own people because if there's a non-native speaker in the room, you kind of stick to English, right? But in Japan, when you do that with Japanese people, like it's kind of weird. Like speaking English with Japanese people. So for me, I try to stick to Japanese, but a lot of times they're like, "Oh, your Japanese is so good." I mean, it's a huge compliment, I guess, but for me, it's like being babied, or it's like complimenting a kid, you know. But I'm like, oh. But a lot of people notice that I'm not a foreigner. Like they can tell that I'm from Japan. Like almost like they're like, "Ah, nihonsou desu ka?" Like it's really quick. Like in that moment, I tell them I'm from Japan, like nihonsou desu or something. They're like, "Oh, okay, cool," and like they're fine. But
interesting.
I think older people, they have a hard time understanding my upbringing or situation. But the moment I say, and then they're like, じゃあなんで日本で育ったの? And I'm just like, なんかおじいちゃんおばあちゃんが宣教師で or something. And a lot of people don't even know the word 宣教師.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Japanese people don't know. Oh, that's interesting.
Or they might know Xavier or something.
Right.
And then, but he's like from the 1600s or something.
Yeah.
So
a while ago.
My grandparents came in the 50s, 1950s. So for them, it's a concept that doesn't really exist even. So the easiest one I do is like, 親の仕事で。But even my parents are from Japan, so that's a lie. But that would be the easiest. 親の仕事の関係で来ました。Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So does that have to do something? Let us segue a little bit into a different but related topic. Did that have something to do with you? Because recently you moved to London, and then after that you kind of moved away from London, and now you've been traveling throughout Europe, as people who follow you on Instagram have probably seen. But you've also decided to go back to Japan. So what was that process like? How has it been going away from Japan? Why did you move away from Japan in the first place? And also, why have you now decided to move back? And what have you found during your travels?
Yeah, so for the people that's been watching my English channel from like 2 years ago, they might know how I was like struggling to be in Japan. I feel like I knew who I was, but dealing with those like small, like minor, I don't want to say microaggression, but like minor comments from Japanese people was really getting to me. And I wasn't like, and I felt stuck in life, and I wanted something new. I wanted something different. So I just bought a one-way ticket, no job, nothing. And then I really got to force myself to make content, and like it really broadened my perspective of life, and I got to meet a lot of new people. I got to meet a lot of people that's similar to my situation, that has a similar situation to me. And then I got to make my own community, and it's been great. But I think I'm ready to go back to Japan now because I'm working for myself now, and I could be anywhere, and I miss my family, I miss my friends, I miss my busy life in Tokyo, essentially. I do love my life in Tokyo, so yeah. But I also got to learn and realize what it means to be from Japan when you tell people in Europe that you're from Japan, because when I was younger, when I lived in the UK for 6 months or something, whenever I told somebody that I'm from Japan, I never thought it was a big deal. I thought people would be like, oh, okay, cool. But especially recently, I feel like there's a Japanese fever going on, and I think I really didn't understand why people were so obsessed with Japan, because that was my norm, that's what I grew up with. So for me, it's that isn't this normal? Isn't this what happens everywhere in the world? But now I finally understand why people like Japanese and why people like Japan. But at the same time, I do know the reality of Japan. I know what it means to be in Japan on a normal Tuesday, So there's a difference between the Japan I know and the Japan Europeans think of, and there's なんかちょっとなんていうのミスマッチじゃなくて
Yeah, like a disconnect between
disconnect between the image,
the idealized version of Japan and what it means to actually be born and raised and live there.
Because some people say oh cool, what it was what was it like to be born and raised in Japan? But I'm I don't know what it means to be from the West. I don't know how it's like to be born and raised in Europe, for instance. So I don't know how to compare it to what to compare it to. But I did live in the States when I was a kid for a few years, but I can't really compare that to my experience in Japan. So I know I got a lot of attention in Japan for being white, but I don't know anything otherwise. I don't know anything that's not that. So
do you feel like you have more materials to compare it to now that you've kind of traveled throughout Europe?
Exactly.
How's that perspective?
I now fully understand why I don't know why people like Japan, essentially, I guess. I know. そうね。なんか何の話したっけ?
So for me, I always feel that especially the version of Japan that you see on Instagram in Reels or on TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but I imagine you see on TikTok as well, is people go to the konbini, everything is clean, it's now very affordable because of the enyasu, and people go, oh, this is amazing, and then people make their edits, they have some music and a few filters on it, and it just looks like heaven, right? But then the flip side of that is that a lot of people are overworked, very stressed out, salaries are very low, perspectives on the job market are not great, kind of old ways of working don't really match up with new ways of thinking, but somehow people need to figure that out, and it's still very much in the middle of that, I feel.
Yeah.
And so it's not always fun to live in Japan if that's your only choice, right?
Yeah, and people say it's fun to visit but not to live. But I also say it's fun because you're on the receiving end of the service in Japan. But when you're on the giving, providing end of the service in Japan, that's when it's hard. You have to be presentable all the time. You have to be 100%. You have to overwork, when you're getting amazing service, that means the person on the other side is overdoing it for you, So there's like an imbalance there, and I just still Japan is amazing. I know that, we know that, but I just don't want people to think that it's a paradise and all your problems will be solved if you move to Japan, and that's not the case, but it's still great. Is what I say.
Yeah, well, it's great enough for you to want to go back.
Yeah, exactly. It's my home. Like it's where my base is, and it's convenient. Everything's so convenient. Everything runs smoothly, of course, but it's just, it gets to you after a while.
Yeah, I think in that sense, because you have a British passport, right? Yeah. I think in that sense, we're both in kind of a privileged position because we can go there when we want, but we can also move back when we want, and we're free to go when something about a society gets too much. We can go to a different place and relocate, and a lot of people don't really have that choice, I suppose. True. When you're bound to work or family, house, mortgage, whatever. True. And so that's really nice.
I do acknowledge that I'm in a really privileged position, that I can go back and forth between the UK and Japan, and so it's been great to live in the UK, London, UK, but I feel ready to go back and work again in Japan.
What are you going to do in Japan?
Ooh, good question. I think I'll be doing more acting, content creating, and all that. But yeah, let's see what life has to offer for me. But I'm very excited, actually. Yeah. More people notice me now, and more people know who I am. So, and I've never had that in Japan before. So I want to know how that feels like in Japan now, I guess. Yeah.
Great.
Great. Great.
Yeah, great. So I think we're all very curious to see where, especially YouTube is going to take you, because I think you're very popular on YouTube and people really enjoy the interviews that you're doing. Especially because I think it's not just you're interested in the other person, but also you're trying to find something of yourself in the other person too.
It's very therapeutic for me, actually. Essentially, I'm doing it for myself. Is what I say. I'm not, but I think I am subconsciously. It's been very therapeutic to talk to other people like me and just talk about and share our experiences, and it's like a kotaeawase, and like how we felt when we went to Japanese school, how we felt when we went to international school, how we felt in like certain situations, and it's been great, and thanks to that I got to meet a lot of people as well, and I just have an excuse to just talk with people for like hours on Zoom or something, because when you're adults you don't really get to talk to people that long, but by using YouTube I feel like we can just talk, and because my channels, I think I ask more deeper questions than other people, so that's why people open up more, and we just go deep into the whole experience we had, and I think they're finding it therapeutic as well, because a lot of my guests say that was great. I feel heard, and I feel like I finally got to share my life and all that, so I think it's been great. But I do want to do a lot more, and just expand more into a bit more different genre as well, but let's see how that goes as well. 秘密です。でもね, I only do it in Japanese, and I don't really put subtitles on right at the moment, so
maybe YouTube generates, maybe you can hire somebody to do that actually, because that would expand.
That's my plan, but let's see how that goes as well. But yeah, if you can understand Japanese, please come to my channel, and please
people who are on my channel usually do know Japanese.
Okay.
And the ones that don't really know Japanese, they're beginners, usually complain that I don't add subtitles sometimes. Okay. So, but as you should always complain so I can make my channel better. So I always want to hear back from you. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes, and really excited to see you in Japan next time, because we've never met in Japan.
That's true. That's
which
true.
Is weird.
I feel like we will be different in Japan.
I feel so too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll be more uptight.
Yeah. Maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe.
It's so loose.
Maybe, yeah, it's very chill.
Very
here.
convivial.
Very loose, chill, relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I expect you in a 3-piece suit next time we see each other.
それは never happens. That will never happen. Yeah. そうね。確かに。でも、ぜひ YouTube とインスタに皆様遊びに来てください。
Yeah, please go over to his channels. I'll link to them below, and make sure to subscribe. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, share this video. Thank you so much for coming all this way and being on my channel.
Yes, of course. Anytime.
It's always a privilege and always fun to see you.
Likewise.
Ooh, and I will likewise. And I'll see you in Japan.
Yes, see you in Japan.
See you next time.
じゃあ、Let's jump to Japan! せーの。つって日本に着いた映像になったら面白いんじゃない
ね。アップグレードしましょう。カメラ。
またねー。
またねー。バイバイ。